gentlemen, welcome back to the Woody Allen Retrospective podcast right here on PlanetTyro.com. I am your host, Donald Wonder, and I'm joined once again by the arsehole, chief, master, reviewer, Simon Rad.
King Shit of Fuck Mountain.
That's it.
That's the title I'm going by lately. Yes, welcome.
Guys, if you missed our last discussion, we actually spoke about Woody Allen's most celebrated, beloved, and 40th year anniversary rom-com drama. It's in people's top 10 list. It's so loved and adored. Annie Hall. If you're on YouTube, you can see there's a card on the screen. It will take you back to that discussion. All you non-YouTubers, listen to this on the podcast. I'll put a link to the whole retrospective in the description below. Whether you're listening to it on Podbean, Stitcher Radio, the iOS app, however you want to do it. Guys, we've reviewed so much Woody Allen movies. We're continuing to do it, and we've got a hashtag you can search to find all our content. Jump in Google, whatever podcast app you've got, put in Woody Allen Retro, and you will find all our content. We've made it really simple. And as always, guys, we give a little spoiler warning. These discussions on these movies are full of spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, we'd rather you go and check it out first, come back and then listen to us ramble and talk about it. But if you don't care about spoilers, continue listening and we're going to get into it. So Simon, with all that said and going through Annie Hall, we're going to do a heel turn and talk about Woody Allen's next movie. And do you mind telling us what that is?
Yeah, so the Annie Hall follow-up takes a drastic turn into a completely different tone. We're talking about 1978's Interiors, which is a movie directed and written by Woody Allen, but does not star Woody Allen. He's not even in the movie. The movie's lead is actually Diane Keaton, returning for another collaboration. And it basically follows her character not only in the middle of an existential crisis facing the realization of her own mortality, but also follows a difficult time for the other members of her family. Her parents going through a separation period, his dad trying to make up for lost time of spending, decades in an unhappy marriage for the sake of her children.
Yeah.
Her mother coping with her own mental issues and depression and sense of isolation and loneliness, especially now that her husband left her. And the internal dynamics between her relationship with her husband and her relationship with her sisters, who all were differently affected by not only what happened between their parents, but of their upbringing and their parents' favoritism towards each different child, and how that works its way into their private life and their professional life, their career, where they find themselves. Diane Keaton's mother is played by Geraldine Page, and she gives a pretty amazing performance in this. But even with such a strong lead headlining it, everybody else fares very well.
Sure.
The two sisters, Flynn and Joey, are played by Christine Griffith and Mary Beth Hurt, respectively. And they're kind of the opposites of Diane Keaton's characters. Flynn is the youngest one, and she's sort of kept in the dark because she's young and naive, but she starts feeling it as she matures, and she feels left out and not taken seriously. She's an up-and-coming actress that just can't get that big breakthrough. She's stuck in television land, while Joey is the favorite child who everybody had high expectations for, but is just not progressing artistically. Diane Keaton is a successful poet, and their mother is a very successful or at least very respected interior decorator. She has impeccable style, while their dad is a successful businessman and wealthy. And it's established early on that the mother contributed a lot to that. So Joey, who to model herself after the mother, felt an incredible pressure under her shoulder. And really, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The beauty of the film is watching all these internal character dynamics come to the surface and play out.
That's interesting, and I agree with that synopsis. It was pretty pitch perfect, actually. Well done, Simon.
But I know. First off, people are like, "Wait a minute, what kind of comedy is this?" Well, that's exactly it. This ain't a comedy. I can imagine the confusion for people like, okay, and when does anybody get kidnapped by a dictator, or is this in the future? Are there any robots in this? No, this is not that kind of Woody Allen movie.
Hold on, because you say it's not a comedy, but there's one thing about this movie that is a comedy, and we have to go back and talk about the trailer. Now, we don't.
It is one of the critics' darlings from Woody Allen.
We don't usually talk about the trailers for the Woody Allen movies a lot because they're pretty just simple trailers. This trailer stands out in the fact that, well, let me go back a little bit. A couple weeks ago, I was actually sitting in Simon's house with him and his girlfriend, and we were looking at some Woody Allen clips just for fun, and we came across the Interiors trailer, and the reason why this trailer stood out is because it runs as a normal trailer showing parts of the film, but it would stop every 20 seconds or so. It would just stop dead in its tracks to tell you that the critics love this movie, and the way it does it is so forced and so comical and so biased that we were all cracking up like, what kind of trailer is this? You're already telling us how great the movie is in the trailer. It's totally unprofessional.
It's like they took the guy from the 90s of This Summer and it's basically that guy's granddad delivering the most snotty, pretentious summary of critics' reviews from the different New York newspaper outlets that you can imagine. I mean, it's basically you're having a friendly conversation, and every 5 minutes a film snob comes in and just pours it all out there, how the imagery reflected in a broken mirror that reflects a broken society on the edge of tomorrow in days of future past cannot summarize the mental scale of influences contributed in Woody Allen's soul to crafting this magnificent painting of nothingness.
You know what, Simon? It's all fun talking about how much we laughed about it, but guys, through this podcast, we're going to inject those parts that we're talking about of the trailer, and I think you understand why we said it was very forced and very unprofessional, but I will explain why. I actually know why they did this, and it becomes very obvious after you've seen the movie. So we'll put the trailer to the side for now, and let's get back to the movie. Now, I do this a lot. I always talk about how, I watched all the Woody Allen's movies before and how much I loved them before. And
here we go. Your little reminiscent hour.
Yeah, first of all,
the memories. You're having a midlife crisis.
I'm trying to show you the contrast of the young me and the new me. And in this movie in particular, I think it's very important because I found this movie when I saw it years ago, decades ago actually. I found this movie super droll, super boring, and I was so surprised. I was like, wow, as you said in the beginning, Simon, no comedy, no levity, just intense dialogue driven drama. And the movie gets more darker as it goes along to its penultimate ending, and it's like, what was this? Now, what I will say is, this is a movie, even rewatching now, I still find it in Woody Allen's filmography, personally not his best, but I like it on a conceptual level, and I think a lot of the things behind it are really, really thought-provoking, but I appreciate it more as an adult because I can relate to the drama in this movie.
Gene Shalit of NBC TV calls Interiors a masterpiece. It ranks with the finest films ever made. A work of art. You must see it.
Yeah. Oh my God, look, those bits just make me lose my train of thought. Woody Allen he earned the right to take a dramatic turn. And I don't know if this was too sharp and the tonal shift was too quick, but now that I'm watching it, movie by movie, and I can see where it was coming from, I think he did earn the right to do this. And I think the movie is a good drama, but as a film and as a narrative on the whole, I just feel like, I don't want to say it's too one tone, but the best analogy I can give, this is like a big chunk of raw meat. That's the drama, with the motif of interiors being inside the house or inside, just being stuck in people's heads with their woes, with their disappointments, with their clashes with each other. It's a lot of meat and it's kind of intense. And by the end of it, I was like, I like a lot of this. I like a lot of what this movie has to say, and I can relate to a lot of this, but it's too much too soon. when we look at it, for me personally, in terms of the retrospective. But as a movie on its own, I appreciate a lot about this, and I'll let you go on, and I'll speak about some more bits as well.
Wow, yeah, you're getting carried away with these metaphors now. Well, what can I say about? I was like, hey, is this the trailer playing, or is this still you talking?
Shut up.
Which one is it? But what can I say about this movie that hasn't been said before?
Penelope Gilliott of The New Yorker calls Interiors Woody Allen's most majestic work to date, as true a tragedy as any that has come out of America in my memory, a consuming film.
Well, you surprised me, because you liked it better than I anticipated you to, because when the movie starts, it's very silent, and this is actually another tribute, not really a tribute, but another heavily influenced piece for Woody Allen. But unlike his comedy influences from the Marx Brothers and Charlie Chaplin, a little bit of Buster Keaton, this one is influenced by Ingrid Bergman, who makes all these deep, thought-provoking movies about a lot of subject matters that really interest Woody Allen. Universal subject matters about life and death, the end, the endful nature of life. You know, that everything has a beginning and the end, and a lot of movies from Ingrid Bergman captured Woody Allen's attention at a young age, and he felt very influenced as a filmmaker by it. So this was kind of like his stab at conveying those emotions and those questions that already bothered him, taking influence from one of his role models as a filmmaker. Sure. And that's a lot to bite off and chew at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, Annie Hall came out so great. We talked about this, that it's sort of that masterpieces where everything just happens to come together. Like all the right people are at the right place at the right time. That if he would have done another rom-com type of film, it would just not live up to the same caliber. It would have felt like a letdown, so you gotta diversify. It's kind of like when Tarantino made Jackie Brown after Pulp Fiction. You just gotta do something different to
sure.
distance yourself and also try something new. You know, keep things diverse, keep your filmography more interesting, like cut down on the repetition. So it's an aggressive step, but I was surprised how much I enjoyed this movie. I mean, maybe because, you know, my mom's an interior decorator, so I really appreciated just the insight to these people's lives and the way the characters are written. Even people we haven't talked about before, like the two boyfriends, Frederick played by Richard Jordan and Mike played by Sam Waterston.
Yeah,
their characters are very flushed out as well. I mean, Frederick is Diane Keaton's husband, and it's quite clear that he's an aspirational writer who's being published and has achieved his amount of success, but not the critical acclaim he desires. But it's because critics desire a more safer, topical book rather than the edgy, fresh, unique style that he naturally writes, which Diane Keaton finds impressive, and he encourages him to move on and keep pushing, while he feels like that's only, if he ever is appreciated for it, it will be in retrospect because he's ahead of his time. And the longer it goes on, the more he feels like he's just being pitied because Diane Keaton already has all the critical acclaim. So is she really telling him he's good because it's her genuine critique and impression, or is she just trying to be supportive? Does she pity him? Does she look down on him? And that gives him a little bit of a writer's block and an inferiority complex.
You know, I'm not surprised you like this movie, because when I was watching this movie, all I could think about was your favourite scene in Annie Hall with Christopher Walken going into that monologue about feeling the oncoming flames coming from the... And, you know, this movie is not as... That was a comedic, very intense scene that came from a place of a damaged character. And this movie has that, but I'm really not trying to, you know, insult the movie by saying that it's similar in that regard, but the way Christopher Walken's character was distraught with himself and his mental faculties, I feel like the character suffered from that in this movie. But this is taken seriously. So again, I was like, I thought you would be bored by this movie because a lot of people are. As I said, most people find it an acquired taste, but I'm happy that you like it because, as I said before, now being older, I can appreciate a lot of what the character was saying about disappointment with themselves. And what I will dispute with you is that actually, I disagree that Diane Keaton's the main character. I feel like this movie is an ensemble cast. I actually feel like everyone gets equal screen time. And actually, I actually felt like Diane Keaton's sister, Joey, was more of the focal character because we saw, I don't want to say more than her, but we got to hear a lot about her, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, I see what you. Let me rephrase it, because what I actually meant was that Diane Keaton is the anchoring character. So she's the one who anchors a story and kind of introduces us to everybody else. But yeah, you're right. It's sort of a tale of sisters and a tale of a family, and certainly the mother, she's mostly the vocal point of a lot of the conflict.
Yeah.
So in a way, everybody has their own aspects of being a main character. Everybody, it is an ensemble cast. It's a female-led story, but even the male characters are flushed out just enough. Whereas the dad who sacrificed a lot of his own happiness for the sake of his family, or rather, it's the two boyfriends, husband/boyfriend. In the case of Mike, who's Joey's boyfriend, and he's kind of hit her emotional support, but because of that, all the criticism, everything falls back on him. I mean, Diane Keaton's mother, Eve, in the movie, who's going through this depression and this obsession with it, making everything perfect and decorating everything. She has a strong influence on Joey and her life, and is basically taken over their relationship from a home decorating perspective. And it causes conflict between them. And Mike is the one who has to kind of take it all. He has to play the straight man and kind of swallow his pride. And you really see that getting to him, and also getting to their relationship as Joey starts mimicking her mom and kind of becoming her mom more and more throughout the film. Yeah. That's what I really like about the movie. I feel like the characters are really relatable. I mean, it is why people's, plight, the film, is like, the white struggle, if you want to put it like that. But if you put it in historical context, the movie came out in 1978, and everybody is very polite and very intellectual and sophisticated. And one of the big plot points later on is Arthur, the dad, finding a new girlfriend in Pearl.
Oh boy,
who's a more outspoken, lively woman, kind of the exact opposite of their mother, who's very reserved and kind of cold, and not as smart and cultivated, but very fun, and really revitalizes their dad. You can tell that they're extremely offended and annoyed by this woman, but at the same time they see why she's a breath of fresh air. But she comes off as very prude, and the biggest insult they throw at her is that she's what was the word they used, that she's a vulgarian. Wait,
not a Vulcan.
Not a Vulcan. She's vulgar. I mean, wait another 2 years and we're in the Reagan era. I mean, this was literally the tail end of the 70s, where you had this class of intellectual thinkers. In the 80s, Reagan brings back the old-fashioned values of the South, where we need to take back America to the good old simplistic days before the science and the books.
Make America great again. Yes.
Yeah, the original great again guy. Yeah, that's why he tripled the deficit. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, this was the last time you can actually write characters like this, because after that we literally go back to Buck and Budweiser and shotguns, and a big huge plummet in the big cities again.
Breaking away from that analysis for a moment, I do want to talk about my general thoughts on the story. Now, when the movie starts, and it's a very...
Judith Christ says, Interiors crosses an entirely new frontier, dealing directly and perceptively with the human condition.
Okay, enough of that. When the story starts, I like the overall story because it's a very uncomfortable family drama. At first, I appreciated what the father was saying. it was very uncomfortable that he announced that, you know, I've raised my kids, I felt like I've done my part, but I want to be on my own, I want to separate. Now, as a man, I thought, you know what, maybe breaking up the family is bad, but, you know, he's being honest, he's being open and honest, and I could appreciate that, even though, you know, he's going to cause his wife dread. If he's unhappy, better to be honest. And I thought, it's an interesting movie to see the ripple effects of this, even though everyone's grown, and even though he's in his 60s and whatnot. But as the movie goes on, you know, the fact that his wife is very unstable, very mentally unstable. And
she's borderline suicidal.
Well,
yeah.
Borderline. She could try to commit suicide once in the movie. And then he is so selfish. And I was thinking, I'm trying to be on your side. I'm trying to see what he's saying. Because he's an old man, you know, his last years. If he wants to be happy, really happy, fine. But he doesn't take this woman into consideration at all. And even when he sees her decline, like you said, he goes to find someone else. That's even bad enough. And then he wants to marry her with knowing her in 6 months. And it's like everyone's telling him, I'm like, wow, man. I mean, the writing of this movie is very uncomfortable. And the way it affects every single character. And again, a massive, massive commendation to Woody Allen. That's not even the whole story, because Diane Keaton and her husband, you get a lot of time with them, as you described, describing their plight with their careers, and then Joey and her boyfriend and her issues as well. There's a lot that happens in this movie for like 3 different subplots and a main plot where, as you said, the mother is a focal point of everything. And it's very interesting, but the motif of the movie is interiors. We're stuck inside the house or the houses. We're inside these people's minds, and they're releasing all of their inner thoughts, inner demons and whatnot. And it's very intense. The biggest criticism I have for the movie is you hit on this a little bit when you said white class people's problems, all that. I felt like the dialogue was it sounded to me a little bit more like written dialogue as opposed to natural conversation. But again, I thought that maybe it's a class thing. I'm not a socialite, I'm not with these people, but they didn't really seem like upper class. So I was kind of like, you know, they would spout this, not exposition, they would spout all their thoughts in such a way, in such a controlled and articulate way, back and forth. It felt a bit like a play, and I'm like, that doesn't feel like natural conversation. But in the movie's defense, as you said as well, this movie is inspired by a director who has a style, who has a theme that Ingmar Bergman, I can't even pronounce his name properly, and Woody Allen did a fantastic interview. I'll put a link in the description, you guys can watch it. And after watching this movie, the biggest commendation I can give it is I checked out more of Ingmar Bergman's work, and I could see why Woody Allen was so inspired. And if this movie isn't owed to that director, that's fantastic. And to be honest with you, throughout Woody's filmography, we're going to see more inspirations. This movie in particular, the way I see it, this was a very concentrated, focused effort to not recreate, but to recreate that kind of movie with a Woody twist. And as we'll see, I think in later movies he does it better, infusing the drama and making the story a bit more interesting. But for everything he did in the past, the studio gave him a pass. They were like, hey, if you want to create a drama, we're going to be behind you after all the money. And I'm talking about, at this point, Woody Allen had made the money. He hadn't made one bomb through his whole career. He just made, what was the company? I forgot the studio.
United Artists.
Yeah, he had made them millions at this point. And Annie Hall was an multiple Oscar winning movie. So it was the perfect time, as you said, the perfect time to try something different. And it's not a bad movie. Acting's fantastic. Cinematography is okay. It's kind of minimal. It's fine. It can be boring for some people. It can be. I think it's an acquired taste, but watching it now in 2017, I think it's a good movie. But lastly, I do think I was more interested in the making of the movie and Woody's thought process and all the stuff I read about this movie a bit more than the movie itself, to be honest with you. Because again, it was very, very meat without the potatoes. But that's kind of my wrap up with my thoughts.
I see where you're coming from, and yeah, I was kind of alluding to that with the time and the place and the decade, that the dialogue, it is very idealistic. Like, you would want to express yourself like that. You would wish you could, you would be that cultivated and be surrounded in such a, cultivated circle where everybody has a very articulate and sophisticated way of expressing themselves, and the smallest emotional outburst is met with an appropriate response, so you don't have to scream and shout and yell, which makes those outbursts even more powerful, which Woody Allen plays a lot with silence in the movie. There's a lot of times where there's so much going on underneath that when somebody suddenly breaks something, it's kind of like it all comes out all at once. And the character of Earl, played by Maureen Stapleton, her being more outspoken and kind of and loud and a little bit more simple, being the woman from Florida, which is before they did all the crazy stuff they do today in Florida, like rape rape alligators trying to blow up Walmart and what else. And you can tell this was made 40 years ago, but it was really the last point in time where you could do that. And to the movie's credit, with the character of Pearl, they kind of acknowledge that, and it's not like they present her as this, oh, she's like from some red state and she's right wing and she's like antagonistic. By the end the film finishes, even her character gets rounded up and we really see the positive sides to her. So it's not just like making fun of her that, okay, she's dumber than everybody else. She's not as well educated or doesn't read as much sophisticated literature or whatever the topic may be. And I really appreciate it. I like I said, because I am familiar a little bit with people in this type of mindset or characters like this. I
really, you know people like this in real life.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, my mom's an interior decorator, and I can relate to a lot of the emotional bits here. And I share a lot of stuff with Diane Keaton's character. Like what troubles her, I have those thoughts in my mind. So I'm a little bit biased. I'll meet you halfway. Even though I really enjoyed the movie and the writing and the character explorations, I think what you keep bringing up in terms of the tone and kind of being dry or one note but not a whole lot of basically any tonal shift in the entire film, I think it's because it's such a drastic departure. I would have wished he would have taken his time and really perfected his own style of filmmaking, because with Annie Hall he finally nailed it. Like, it was a perfectly formatted film. Mm-hmm. And we give it credit for all the transitions, how beautifully it flows, how we go from one segment to the other, where it's comedy and romance, and we jump back and forth for time, and it just works. This movie, we lose all that again. It's very abrupt. We have some rough edits. There's not a whole lot of music. Yeah. There's not, I think he's trying new things. He's trying new camera angles. Ingrid Bergman influences go all the way back to the silent era when he started out, like the early 20th century. So kind of mimicking or taking influence from some of those camera angles is interesting, but it doesn't flow as organically and well as his previous film. Anyhow, I would have wished he would have taken some time to really be able to craft a film that flows better and is more digestible. Because this really hits you in the face from all angles. The story's heavy, the drama's heavy, the acting's heavy, and you don't get a lot of handles. You don't have a memorable score to carry you through. You don't have really clever or exciting editing. That's where the play comparisons come in, that it's one silent, talky scene to the next. But what they say is very interesting. So it really worked well for me. And I think to a certain extent, silence and that heavy mood is important so that you are able to emotionally level with the characters and the place there are in their life and the disconnection they feel between themselves and the outside world. Like, there's a lot of people staring out of windows. That's a big theme in the film, and that's where we start and kind of where we finish.
It's ironic you say that, because the movie's original title was Windows.
What happened? Somebody foreshadowed Bill Gates in this.
Yeah,
they were like, we don't want a copyright.
Exactly. It would have been an interesting, because the cover of this movie is the three sisters looking through the window as well. And I do want to say, this is, as you said, basically, This is not Woody Allen stepping his toe in the water. He's diving in.
Oh yeah, but I'll shock you. To me, this is right up there. Like, it's a completely different tone, but with Sleeper and Annie Hall, I think this is in the top 3 what we've seen so far.
Wow!
It beats out Play It Again Sam for me. I really like this movie.
We got a lot of movies, and I'm dying to hear your top 10. So I'm gonna note what you just said there. I'm gonna note that down.
Yeah, and you know, Joel Schumacher returning for the costume design, and I gotta say he did a damn good job. This is like
your favorite director.
This is like Joel Schumacher's redemption, this retrospective, and it just proves how much I hate those two, superhero movies that much, because I'm like, this guy has a very diverse filmography, from directing movies like Falling Down and The Client.
Had style. Those Batman movies had style, and you know that. That was him.
Yeah,
that was all him.
Let's focus on other bits of his filmography. like that's the thing. You don't want him to be best known for those 2 films. Like, he did a bunch of other stuff, from writing, The Wiz, to doing costume design right here, and in Sleeper. And I gotta say, the costumes were bang on here.
They were.
A lot of character expression. It went very well with the colors of the interior decoration. Like I said, I'm not gonna go into it, but as somebody whose mother does this, you can also pick the specific decoration styles and the different accessories she picked from the different decades that reflects her emotional move, and it gets deep, and that's Woody Allen's perfectionism coming to the surface. Like I said, it's just not in a very digestible package. It's gotta be in a certain mood. Like, I happen to catch it late at night where I feel tired, and and it works well then. But summer blockbuster, hell no. This is not a feel good movie.
Well, I will say that Woody Allen did go. He said he didn't cast himself in the movie is because he didn't want anyone to think this would be a comedy at all. And if he just knew, if people saw him alone, they would have been a little bit misled. And also, he said that he didn't feel like he could pull off the male, as you praised the male actors in the movie as well. He said he couldn't really pull off what they delivered, which again shows Woody Allen's humbleness and common sense, which is really awesome. I think this is an interesting movie for this to be Woody Allen's first directorial debut without him starring in it, which is an interesting thing for him to pick. But as you said, man, we're going to see more of Woody Allen touching these elements moving forward. And some of my favorite movies are those darker elements with a better overall story, better executed. But just for argument's sake, people, I want you to know this. I still think the movie's good. Some of my favorite movies and television shows are super depressing dramas. I just wanted to bring up 3 examples in particular. 6 Feet Under, that movie is all about depression. The main characters are undertakers. One of your favorite movies of all time, Blue Valentine. Isn't that right, Simon? One of your favorite movies?
Of course, right. Of course. Well, what else? Yeah.
I mean, and obviously, even a series like Nip Tuck, which again is dissecting characters and their depression and the body image. Man, I'm not new to this. I just again think it was a little bit too much in certain areas, but I'm beating a dead horse by going on. Forget what I said, guys. This movie again was nominated for 6 Oscars, so it doesn't matter what I think. The movie was another critical success, but at this time, I don't want to take away from the movie. They were diehard Woody fans. The critics did love this movie. This is a movie that I think sings to the tortured artists, the tortured painters and film directors. They love this movie. I was reading the reviews and they were like, Woody Allen understands us. He understands our plight. And it was just so funny, but it doesn't matter. This is critically acclaimed movie. Apparently, as you said, one of his best. IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, it's in the mid-7s. Still ages pretty well. And, every time, Simon, it's been the theme that you asked me what my quote of the movie is. Oh, boy. I have an exchange. This time, it's a long exchange. There's a part in the movie where Diane Keaton, you actually referenced this before. Diane Keaton's going back with her husband about his book and his failings, and he wouldn't go to a party as well. That whole exchange, that was really great. That was really stand out to me. And there's some quotes here. They're not my favorite. Let me get this one here. I think you're going to remember this one. At the center of a sick psyche is a sick spirit.
That's Joey's character's big. She basically comes out of her shell and is in the first time with her life honest with her mom and with herself at the same time. Yeah, it's a good moment. Yeah.
And a more uplifting one that I want to end the quote on. You only live once, but once is enough if you play your cards right.
Or you can live forever, which is my motto. Like Batman Forever. There you go. It all comes in circle, man.
It does. See your favorite director. You see, I don't know why you just deny it, Simon. You love Joshua.
I am in denial now. You know what? Client, the Falling Down is a good movie, though, man. That's a good movie.
And just in case you guys forgot,
Judith Christ says, Interiors crosses an entirely new frontier, dealing directly and perceptively with the human condition.
Gene Shalit of NBC TV calls Interiors a masterpiece. It ranks with the finest films ever made. A work of art. You must see it.
oh, guys, that's it for this review. You know, I was surprised. We went a bit longer on this one, and I thought this was going to be short, but I'm really happy to have you on. And, you know, again, I'm kind of surprised with how you felt about this movie. But again,
hey, nobody's as surprised as I am. I thought I'm going to hate this. When we watched that trailer, I thought I'm going to snooze all the way till the end.
But don't you think it's ironic that after this, Woody comes back with another one of his most beloved movies? And I'm really looking forward to the next one, guys. But before we talk about that one, guys, if you loved Interiors, and as I said before, I actually found a lot of the behind the scenes of this movie are a lot more interested in the movie itself, and there is a lot behind the making of this movie. Check out the Woody Allen Pages Watches Guide, because all the information is in there. Great book. Get it on Amazon. Link is going to be in the description. And that's going to be it, Simon. So I want to say thank you for joining me on this one again, as usual, buddy.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Guys, if you watched the movie, leave us a comment in the comment section down below, whether you like it, you hate it, you disagree with us, you think we went on too long, or give the movie a chance. I think you might surprise you. But again, if you're older, I think you might appreciate it more. Anyway, guys, click on the links on the screen if you're on YouTube. And we'll leave it at that. Until the next one, we'll see you there.
Have a good one.